everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of the Coffee Yarn and Dinosaurs podcast. It has been a long time since I've done a podcast, and I'm sneaking this one in during nap time, so I'm gonna go really quick and see if I can get this done for you guys. So the last time that I podcasted, we were preparing to move into our tiny house / bus conversion and travel across the country, and I am gonna tell you guys about that. But I want to get the knitting content in first, so if we have enough time, stick around till the end, and I plan to talk about that a little bit at the end of the podcast. So, first of all, today is Tuesday, October 16th, 2018, and if you've been keeping track of the projects that I was working on from the last episode, I am probably not working on any of the same projects right now because it has been maybe 4 months since the last podcast. So I'm just gonna show you a little bit of what I'm working on right now, design wise, concepts for the future maybe. And I've also been thinking about taking this podcast in a slightly different direction because I've been thinking about it for a while. And a lot of podcasts I see, either everyone's working on the same project. There's a lot of Andrea Mowry, Stephen West, designers like that, and they're really well known for a reason. You know, they're good designers, but I don't want to just be another podcast with projects. I'd like to be able to explore a little bit of what's going on in the knitting and design world with you guys, maybe talk about some trends that I'm seeing, things that I feel interested in as far as fiber arts and design, maybe give you guys a little bit some, information, be a little bit different than just projects. As you can see from my hair going everywhere, I am sitting outside, so there may be some editing in here to get out airplane noises or train noises, but I'm gonna get started. So the first thing I want to show you guys is this pair of socks. This is a new design that hopefully will be coming out in a couple of weeks. These are my Treve Socks. The yarn is Rose Gold from Arkansas Yarn Co. And this is sort of a medium weight, yeah, that color is pretty accurate. It's a medium weight gold sparkle yarn, which is pretty unique because usually a lot of stellina yarns or sparkle yarns are silver. So this is, it's a higher ply or a higher twist 2-ply yarn, and I really enjoyed the stitch definition that it gives you. This is a coin lace pattern, so that means that it's a faux cable. There's not actually any cables in it because people have seen this and made the comment, oh my gosh, I don't think that I could ever do so many cables on one sock. But the good news is it's not a cable, it's coin lace. It's just fake. So it's lace that looks like a cable. So if you're worried about cables or you don't want to do cables, ta-da! So it's a toe-up sock, and it has a short row heel on it. And as usual in the pattern, I'll be including my short row heel tutorial, which is farther down in this YouTube channel already. So if you haven't done short row heels before and you'd like to maybe practice before this pattern comes out, look for the video on my channel called How to Knit a Short Row Heel, and it'll walk you through the entire process, start to finish. Knit the whole heel. I go all the way through and knit the whole heel, so you guys can see my tricks for no gaps in the hole or in the heel, no gaps in the join. I enjoy it. It's a really nice and easy way to just knit a heel quickly into a pattern and not have to worry about a gusset. So, Treve Socks. These will be coming out in a couple weeks. Hopefully. They're in testing right now. So that is the first thing. Let's see. Second thing that I'm working on right now. Oh, I have 2 projects in one bag. Oh, bad designer. I haven't even woven in my ends yet. These are a new sock design that is just about to go into testing. I am calling these socks Quiver, like a quiver of arrows. because it has this really fun cabled arrow motif down the foot, and then up the back it has this little cable kind of, oh yeah, and the little basket weave, and it just reminded me of like an old-fashioned quiver, a woven quiver with the strap up the back. So this is also a toe-up sock, but it has a fleagle heel. And for those of you who don't know, a fleagle heel is a toe up, it's actually a heel that you can knit both toe up or top down. But this one in particular is knit toe up. And you do knit a gusset, you do the gusset increases, but then you turn the heel without having to work a heel flap. So you're just doing short rows back and forth. And don't let the word short row intimidate you, because there's no wrapping and turning, it's just decreases. Like when you work a heel flap and a gusset, how you turn the heel, you just do the decrease and back and decrease and back. That's all it is. So you can have, if you have a deep instep, you have that extra space in the instep without having to pick up stitches or actually do a heel flap and count rows on a heel flap or anything like that. So these will be going into testing soon. They're called my Quiver Socks, and I will hopefully have a link to my Ravelry group in the description box below, which is where I do all of my pattern testing. And there's a link to sign up to be notified for pattern tests. So if that's something you're interested in, you can hop over to the Ravelry group, click the sign up link, and there you go. Oh, I forgot to tell you what yarn this is. This yarn is by What the Flock hand dyed. That's Joe Cole. And this is his Flockin' Sock Extra. So this is a slightly thinner sock yarn. It's 463 yards. And again, oh look, see, it's good that I had the ends unwoven in. Let's see if I can get it to focus on the yarn and not on my face. Focus on the yarn. No? Okay. There, sort of. It's a 2-ply yarn. So again, you get really good definition in these cables. You have no trouble seeing the design, even though it's pretty much a single stitch cable pattern, which I really like. And the colorway is Deep Caramel. Now, this might surprise you if you go to Joe's website and you see this really pretty deep fall tonal and you look at his website, because Joe does really gorgeous neon yarns, and he does neon variegated and sock blank. He does lots of really bright colors. But I went to a fiber festival where he was vending, and this skein, the dark caramel, was just sitting right on top of a whole pile of neon, and I snatched it up and snagged it. And if you go to his website, there's a page that says semi-solids, and you can find a whole bunch of everything from neon to more muted colors like this. And you can see, yeah, I mean, lots of different colors. I was not expecting this from him, and I'm really pleasantly surprised to have found it. So that's the first project. And then I liked the arrow motif on that so much that I decided I wanted to put it into a shawl also. So it's not very far right now, but I've started with an increasing shawl. There's going to be garter stitch up here on the border and the arrow motif running down the side, like so. And I'm really excited about that. And this is being knit in Yarn Cafe Creations Mocha DK is the base, and the colorway is Foxy. You can see it's a really pretty fox fall, pumpkin-y type color. And it's really nice and squishy to knit with. It's I believe it's 100% superwash merino. I would have to check the ball band. But I'm really enjoying this so far. This one might take a little bit longer because you have to do things like purl through the back loop on the wrong side of it. But to me, the motif is pretty enough that I think it's worth it. And hopefully some of you guys will too. Something really exciting design-wise that I'm working on is I've been wanting to get into garment design for a while. And one of my design goals for this year was to design a knit or crochet garment of some kind. And I tried a couple times with some baby sweaters because I thought, hey, I'll do a baby design because surely a smaller garment will be easier to design. And it turns out that no, it's really not, because doing everything at such a smaller scale for me was actually more difficult. So it looks like a vest right now, but this is my first crochet garment design. And the reason it looks small on me is because it is. One of my beautiful nieces volunteered to model for me, which is great because her bust size is literally 10 inches smaller than mine is. So I can knit or I can crochet a significantly smaller sweater and still have a good sample, and then I get to take pictures of somebody else, and it's all very wonderful. So this is the body portion of it. And you can see there's a little bit of shaping, but there's not too much. And there you go. There's a little bit closer up of the stitch pattern. It's an all over textured stitch. And this is actually a 100% acrylic yarn. This is Lion brand Heartland in their Joshua Tree colorway. And I've talked a little bit on this podcast before about using the right yarn for the right project. And I think this sort of fits into that category for me because not everybody can afford a couple $100s to do a handmade sweater. But these skeins of yarn, it's worsted weight, and you can find them at Michael's or Joann's or something like that, and they're maybe $5 for 200 yards. So if you need, say you need 1,000 yards for a sweater or 1,200 yards for a sweater, you're looking at maybe $30 to $40 for yarn instead of $150. And for me, that's really important because I love working with nice yarn, and I would love to do this sweater in 100% merino or an indie dyed yarn. Like, if I had the money to make this sweater in Yarn Cafe Creations, the Mocha DK, I would. But because of all the work and skill that goes into indie dyeing, the prices have to be higher than commercially produced yarns. And I absolutely understand that, and I 100% believe that indie dyers should be charging the prices that they're charging for hand-dyed yarn. But I also understand, and I'm one of those people who cannot necessarily afford to buy a sweater's quantity of indie dyed yarn. Or even commercial yarn, sometimes like Knit Picks. Sometimes it's just not in the budget to spend a couple $100s on a sweater. So, I'm using Lion brand Heartland. And I'm really excited about this. And the reason it's only a body is because I let the sleeve math intimidate me for a little bit, but I have spent all last night and a little bit of this morning finishing the math for the sleeves, and I'm super, super excited because I think I finally got it right. So hopefully, I will be able to get the sleeves done on this between tonight and tomorrow and get this sent off to a tech editor and get it testing, because that would be really exciting for me to have a sweater design. It's mid-October. I think with testing and tech editing, I believe I could get it out before the end of the year. And I really hope that would happen because it's been one of my goals all year. And I'm excited to be doing something that's new for me and a little bit intimidating for me, because I think we should do things that challenge us. I believe that we should try new things. And for me, that's part of what knitting and crochet design is all about. I want to try new things. I want to see if they work. I want to make a sweater. I want to do socks. You know, all of those things. Oh, here's the yarn. I can show you the yarn in the skein. And it's a little bit rumpled because we have literally moved houses 3 times in about 3 months. So things just get tossed into bags. And that's another good thing about this yarn. High quality yarn needs high quality yarn care. So if you're making a project for somebody who maybe doesn't know how to care for 100% merino yarn, especially if it's not superwash, jackpot. So So this is Lion Brand Heartland, and yes, it is 250 yards for a 5-ounce skein, which is 150 grams. So this is sort of a medium worsted weight yarn. It's not super thin, but it's not as thick as maybe say Vanna's Choice, which I would classify as an Aran weight yarn, not so much worsted weight. So this is a nice medium weight worsted weight yarn, and it comes in pretty colors, nice fall colors, so that's good. Yep, so that is that sweater. I have not named it yet, name forthcoming. And the last project that I've been working on, which I know it seems like a lot of projects at once, but different projects for different times. I cannot knit the arrow motif shawl in the dark while watching a movie, because that I need to be looking at to work on it. But I saw that, and here I become the cliche podcaster, I saw that Stephen West had a new pattern. And I have never done a Stephen West pattern before because I did not want to hop on the bandwagon. But I have a lot of either single skeins of yarn or leftover skeins of yarn. And I know a lot of people make blankets out of them. Either they make a Cozy Memories blanket or a granny stripe blanket or something like that. And to be frank, I have neither the time nor the inclination to be making a fingering weight blanket. Because for me, it's not going to come out heavy enough. I do not want a fingering weight blanket. That is a baby blanket to me, not a grown adult blanket. So the Marled Mania cardigan is what I chose, and you use 2 strands of fingering weight held double. So it comes out to sort of a DK weight, depending on how thick your fingering weight yarn is. It comes out to a DK weight sweater. So, and I'm going to give you a disclaimer. I do not think these colors are the most beautiful in the world together, but it is a scrappy sweater. It is not likely something I will ever wear out of the house, but I think it would be a very comfortable sort of house coat, house jacket, just, you know, a big oversized comfy thing that you can wear on the couch while you're knitting, that type of deal. So it's really scrunched up on the needles, but this is what I have so far. And my dilemma at first was that I like this together. I like the blue and the yellow, and I like the yellow and the light blue. But I don't particularly care for having the royal blue and the light blue in the same garment. And then I kind of thought to myself, if you're going to make a scrappy sweater, not everything's going to match. And if it's comfortable, and if I'm not planning on wearing it out of the house, who cares if the colors are perfect? Yarns I have used so far. I have the royal blue here is Knit Picks Capretta in the Celestial colorway. And I had originally started with 2 strands of it held together because the pattern looks really beautiful with a solid color yoke and cuffs and bottom hem, but the pattern does not list specifically how much yarn you will need for just the yoke. So I did not have enough and I had to start over, which is kind of unfortunate. And that was my other neighbor coming home. Which brings up a question for me. Are you guys, I don't know how to explain it. I'm not ashamed that I knit. I'm not ashamed that I'm a knitwear designer. But I think a lot of people would find it very strange that I'm sitting on my back porch knitting and doing a knitting podcast. And I'm curious about how you guys deal with that. You know, do you guys knit in public? Is it something you get comments about? Is it something that bothers you if you get comments about? Or are you one of those people that I wish I could be like that sits in public and says, stare away, I don't care, I love to knit, this is what I do? Because I'm not really sure if I will ever be that person. I think that I care too much about other people's opinions, which, you know, for good or for bad, that's who I am. I like to make people happy, which can be a problem sometimes, but it's also, it's partially good in knitwear design because it's what urges me to give you guys lots of heel options or lots of fit options, because I'm not content with designing for 2 people. I'm not content with socks that will only fit half of you. I'm not content with a sweater that will only fit a medium-sized woman. I want there to be options for everybody to fit into what I'm designing. So anyway, where was I? Yarns that I'm using. The blue is Knit Pricks Capretta in the Celestial colorway. And the variegated is Dragon Horde yarn. It was her Valentine's Day, one of her special Valentine's Day colorways. It's Call Your Dad, You're in a Cult. She likes a podcast called My Favorite Murder, which I started listening to and could not get into. Sorry, I guess that makes me unpopular in the knitting world. I don't really like the true crime shows, apparently. And this, it looks like one color, but it's actually two. It is Knit Picks Stroll in the Poppy Field colorway, and Yarn Cafe Creations, another special colorway. It's non-repeatable, Hook and Ladder. And then I started melding the Knit Picks Stroll. You can see the yellow in with the blue and orange, which is Bad Wolf Girl Sits and Knits in her Newt Scamander colorway. And I actually really love this, and I would love to make maybe a pair of socks out of this. So I was kind of sad to give this up. And if she ever dyes it again, I may buy a skein of it in the future because it's really, really beautiful. It's a gorgeous sparkle colorway. But it was kind of the gap bridging colorway that worked for this pattern, so I have sacrificed it to the cardigan. And at the current point where I'm at, where you can see that it's mostly light blue with some yellow and orange in there, that is Newt Scamander being held double with Knit Picks Stroll in the Poppy Field, or no, not Poppy Fields. Blue Yonder. This is Blue Yonder. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I have a backpack full of scraps. Do you guys like my super fancy pattern bag or project bag? Look, I'm so fancy. Oh my gosh. Yes, that is what it looks like. Sorry, it's not a super fancy project bag. It's a $5 backpack from Walmart. But yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Design plans for the future involve actually getting that crochet sweater published, the Quiver Socks, the Quiver Shawl. I really want to get those things published. And something else I want to get published. You guys may recognize this. I'm not sure if I showed it in the first podcast. I think I've been showing you guys this forever and have never actually published it. This is my Ode to Summer Cowl. And I have made an Ode to Summer hat, which is one of my most popular patterns. And so a couple years ago I decided to make a cowl because, hello, nice, squishy, comfy. And it sits right under your chin, so it would tuck right into the jacket. And I basically have everything written up and for some reason never tested it and never published it. So, hello. So this uses, I'll have to double check. I believe it uses a single skein of Lion Brand Wool Ease Bulky. Not the Thick and Quick, but Bulky. There's a middle one between Wool Ease and Wool Ease Thick and Quick. And it uses just one skein of that. It would probably also look really good with one of the chunky Malabrigo yarns, which I really want to knit it up in maybe like a reddish color, a Malabrigo yarn, or maybe an Aran weight one, so it would be slightly less tall. But you can be on the lookout for this too, because I'm putting it on the podcast, so that way I am committing to get this done and to get this out there, because I really like it, and it's been sitting in a drawer and I haven't been able to wear it because I've been saving it as a pattern sample, gosh darn it, so I can keep it nice to show you guys. So that's about what I'm up to for right now. Things that are upcoming. It's starting to get towards gift giving season, which is exciting. So trying to get a couple patterns out like this This would be a great gift to give to somebody. It gives you a little bit of lace, a lot of texture, and it's not that hard, and it takes you like 2 days. So, or a day, you know, it's really easy. It's probably like, I'd have to do the math, but it's probably like 150 yards of bulky weight yarn, like chunky, number 5. Super easy, super fast. So I'm going to try to get out a couple of patterns like this. So if you're looking for gift giving options for the holidays coming up, this. And also I plan on doing a couple pattern reviews of indie designers that I really enjoy. Just, you know, free disclaimer, some of them probably will be my friends because I'm familiar with their work in particular. But I hope to do a couple of sort of pattern roundups so you guys can see patterns that I either enjoy because I've made them before or that are on my list if I have time to knit for others. So you can be on the lookout for that. If you want to see somebody who already does that, Barbara Benson, who is Tumped Duck, has a YouTube channel that's called Watch Barbara Knit, and she does pattern roundups all the time and is a business acquaintance of mine, total disclosure, and I really like her idea of doing that type of roundup, so we'll see. I also would love to hear from you guys. I have considered doing a couple of designer interviews with, again, designers that I am acquainted with, because I am a little bit shy and don't necessarily want to contact the ones that I'm not acquainted with. But would you guys be interested in seeing that? If I could pop maybe a 5 or 10 minute designer interview in with some indie designers, introduce you to some of their work instead of me just holding up pictures or linking up pictures. That's something that I'm considering putting in, and I'd love to hear your feedback whether or not you'd like to see that. So this is the end of the knitting content. To give you a quick life update, yes, so we did move into the bus. The bus was finished. Well, funny story. The bus was sort of almost finished, but our lease was up on the house we were renting in Philly. So we sort of camped out in it at a friend's house while we got it finished enough to live in. Like, we ran electric at the friend's house, we put in plumbing at the friend's house, countertops, couches, things like that. We put in all while we were staying at the friend's house for 10 days. I say we, it was my husband. Clint did so much work, and our friends helped also. So we moved into the bus and we started driving, and our original goal was to head to Idaho because we both wanted a little more to live in the middle of nowhere after living in Philadelphia for so long. So we got into the bus and we started driving, and we really enjoyed Western Pennsylvania, but you know, we've been driving for 2 days and nobody's gonna build a bus and then stop driving for 2 days. So we kept driving, and I've lived in the Midwest before. I've lived in Wisconsin and I really enjoyed that, but Clint does not want to live under a mountain of snow in northern Wisconsin, so you know, we kept driving, and I have no desire to insult anybody who lives in any of these states, but he did not like North Dakota because it was too flat, and eastern Montana also was sort of the same, that we felt unless we were going to be ranchers wasn't really for us. Something else that happened along the way is living on the East Coast, you don't realize how many forest fires there are out on the West Coast, because it doesn't really make the news out here unless it's like the massive California fires. So we were driving across, we got to Idaho, and when we got to the particular town in Idaho that we had our eye on, and I'm not going to name it, it's, you know, it was a little town that we had our eye on that Clint had visited a couple years ago. We drove through the town, and it was, in the 2 years since Clint had been there, it had gotten very run down. There was very blatant drug selling and prostitution happening in daylight, and we were just like, that's not a place to raise your kids. We're leaving, you know, we were leaving Philly so that it would be somewhere safe to raise our kids, and it felt like driving into little Philly, and it was just not somewhere that we wanted to be. So we kept heading west during all of the forest fires, and we started heading across Washington State. And at that current point in time, there was a heat wave because of the forest fires. So it was 98 degrees outside of the bus and about 106 degrees inside the bus with no air conditioner. So we were driving across Washington State, and it was just all hazy. You couldn't see anything. It was 106 degrees. We were sweating our butts off. The kids were sitting in car seats, the little one in just a diaper, the older one like in just underwear, because it was so hot. It was ridiculous. So we drove to Seattle, and there was a little area called Port Orchard in a little island off of Seattle, and it was we picked it because I looked at the map, and it was literally the lowest temperature on the map was Port Orchard, and I was like, we're going there. I don't know what's in Port Orchard, but we're going there because it's the coldest place on the map. So we went there, and it was you know, nice people. We met other people living in a bus, and long story short, the fires were so bad that the Olympic Peninsula was closed. And we were sort of just trying to drive away from the areas where there were fires, because we had to have our windows open so we wouldn't suffocate in the heat. But with the windows open, it was so smoky, and Clint has asthma, and it was really just not good. So around the time we got to Portland, we realized that even though Portland has a big tiny home community, they say, there's a lot of city ordinances that prohibit parking within city limits. So our original goal was to be in Portland, because lots of people had told us that you can be in the Portland area, live in a tiny house, live in a schoolie, and get work. So our original plan was to live in Portland and have Clint begin working in Portland while we were living in the bus. But when we got there, we quickly realized that that is not as feasible as we were led to believe that it would be. Because what people mean when they say there's lots of parking around Portland is maybe 30 miles around Portland. And the bus was our only vehicle at the time. So you can't drive a school bus to work, especially if your wife and children are in it. So we weren't able to get a job out there, and we weren't able to find somewhere to park. And at that point, we were also starting to have some financial issues, because when you're just driving and driving around in a vehicle that gets 7 miles to the gallon, you don't really save money very well. So essentially what we ended up deciding to do was we drove back all the way across the country, back to not Philadelphia, but about an hour outside of Philadelphia, where we had family living. And we lived with family for a month until we could find a place to live and save up a little bit of money to get into a house, into a new job, and all of that. So, I'm not going to give you my street address. We're out by Lancaster, in the Lancaster area, and in a house. I'm sitting outside. This is my wall. It's my back wall. We are in the Lancaster area, and yes, we are, you may have seen on Instagram, we are selling the bus, because we very quickly realized that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And we both would have we believe we would have enjoyed living in the bus more if we did not have children, because not having a specific place that you are home had a very big impact on our children. And I don't know if that's because people say that children are flexible and they will bounce back, and that is true. But we have been in this house for 3 weeks now, and my younger son still asks if we are going to go back to our bus home when we get into the van to drive somewhere, to drive to maybe a friend's house. My older son will ask, are we going to our new home? Because living in the bus changed their mindset to sort of, we don't have a home, which is very disconcerting, I think, for children, because kids need stability, and I think they need to know that they are safe where they are. They need to know where home is. They need to know that they're taken care of. And in the bus, it was very much, where are we going to go today? And they enjoyed the traveling. They really did. But I don't think it was the right lifestyle for us. And it's not something that we plan on doing again. It was a very good experience. And it's something that we would have always wondered, what if we hadn't tried it? We would have wondered, you know, I think we would have maybe idealized that little town in Idaho that did not turn out to be what we expected it to be. I believe we would have idealized the whole go west thing. So it's not to say that we're going to stay around Lancaster forever, but there have been repercussions of moving all the time in my own life also. It's been 3 weeks that we're here, and I frequently still wake up in the middle of the night with no idea where I am, which is very disconcerting. The kids don't sleep as soundly as they used to, which may be in part because we literally live 2 blocks away from a train that goes through every half an hour at night, which we were not told when we were renting the house. But they're starting to sleep through it, it's fine. But there have definitely been some repercussions in my life and Clint's life that we didn't anticipate when we moved into the bus. We have found that we like comfort a little bit more than we thought we did. Being in a bus with no flushing toilet and technically running water if we carried large tanks of water with us, but essentially no running water, no heat, no air conditioner, no flushing toilet. You know, things look very glamorous online and things look very glamorous on the internet. But 3 weeks without a flushing toilet is not so glamorous. 3 weeks of what basically amounts to camping showers, not very glamorous. I'm glad that we did it. I'm glad that we took the chance. I'm glad that we built the bus. And I'm equally glad now that we are not living in it. So, yeah, I think that's about it for today. That's about where I am with projects. I hope that I can get back into podcasting. I will have to find somewhere in my house that I can do this because it's the middle of October and it's starting to get cold outside. And, you know, it's noisy. You guys don't want to hear trash trucks going past. But I wanted to be able to reconnect with you guys. I wanted to be able to catch you up on what's going on, because a lot of you have either emailed or messaged and asked me what's going on with the bus. Where are we living? Are we okay? And I really appreciate you guys that have taken the time to reach out and say, hey, we just want to make sure you're all right. That means a lot, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for watching. Hopefully I will see you soon. Talk to you later, guys.